Let's shift our focus to autos for a moment. 2024 has been a whirlwind year for auto companies in terms of news flow as well. Growth was hindered by demand slowdown in India, maybe even globally. Let's bring in Puneet to take a closer look at how the auto pack fared in 2024. Puneet, good morning.
Good morning, Neeraj. And as you rightly said, it's been a very interesting year for the auto cycle as a whole. The whole sector has been abuzz, led by the two-wheelers in terms of growth, but all the other segments have been lagging the growth rate. Now, when you look at the kind of innovations that have happened in the hybrid and the EV space, we are trying to consolidate and look at three key parameters in the auto space. How has been the stock performance, firstly, and of course the sales performance since it's the auto sector, and finally what do the valuations say right now. So when you look at the stock performance, we have seen some clear winners and no points for guessing who's the first one. It's of course Mahindra and Mahindra, a solid 70% return in this particular year in the first 11 months itself. It's been a very strong year for the company. When you look at someone like a Bajaj Auto and TVS Motors as well, that's led by strong performance of the company in terms of sales, and we'll get to that. While the others such as Eicher Motors has seen a revival only post the November results, because post the Q2 the commentary has been that there's a strategy shift as well. That's one thing to watch out for. When you look at the other players as well, it's been a slow year for the passenger car makers, so that's reflected in Maruti as well as Tata Motors valuations as well as the stock price performance specifically. While Hero has been a slow year, but they're expecting to have a better second half led by the strong Diwali season as well. When you look at, the next thing is, of course, looking at the sales performance as well, because that's what's driven the stock price performance of someone like an M&M. We have seen a solid 22% growth for the company, and this is, of course, comparing with the other passenger vehicle makers as well. While someone like a Tata Motors has just been 2% in, and this is between January as well as December. So that's one of the key things. Apart from that, when you look at the two-wheeler makers, the growth is still, diversified between all the players. We've seen TVS as well as Bajaj Auto being one of the key figures with strong growth of about 13 to 16%. While, Eicher Motors has had a slow month, but as I mentioned, the strategy change is something that's, excited the street as well. Finally, we look at the other commercial vehicle makers as well as the tractor makers as well, because for commercial vehicle makers, the government spending as well as the first half was impacted due to elections as well as monsoons. So we are seeing a very slow growth for most of these players, and Tata Motors again being one of the key laggards in the commercial vehicle space. Finally, on tractors, it's been a slow month, but Mahindra has done well because of their focus on the western region, specifically in Karnataka as well as something like a Maharashtra as well. Finally, what does the valuation look like? Because, it is mentioning that, Mahindra is one of the highest value stocks, but that's, led by the strong price performance. And despite a 70% return in this particular year, they're expecting a stronger growth in the next 2 years. So FY26 PE is around 24 times. Tata Motors, while it's, half of what it is generally that, the JLR division gets roughly about 2 to 3 times EV by EBITDA valuations, and the India business trades around 10 to 11 times. So there is, of course, a steep valuation correction compared to Maruti as well as Mahindra and Mahindra. But for Tata Motors, the key aspect is going to be JLR and new transition that they're looking at. In terms of valuations for the two-wheeler makers, we are seeing that TVS is the highest valued companies as well. But the others, such as Hero MotoCorp, is also very undervalued, roughly half of the market leader. Finally, when you look at the other valuations of the other players as well, such as Ashok Leyland and Escorts, both, are roughly around 14 to 20 times going forward. Finally, when you look at some of the key brokerage commentaries to end this discussion, we are seeing, some most upside on M&M, followed by something like, the most bearish is on something like a Tata Motors. That's been one of the key aspects to look out for. Apart from that, BNP Paribas is seeing roughly a 50% jump in share price performance of something like a Maruti, and that's one of the key things. They're expecting the valuations will be better, and they're expecting, Jefferies is most bullish on something like a TVS Motors. They're expecting a 30% CAGR in terms of revenue as well as profits as well. So overall, it's been a tough year for the automakers. Mahindra and Mahindra being one of the key winners, while Tata Motors being one of the key losers as well. But it's going to be a very interesting year going forward as well.